Thanks for having me, Joe. See ya.
Take care. These days, the expectation that diners will tip their servers is key to working in the restaurant industry. Tips, of course, make up a big part of a server's salary at the vast majority of the nearly 650,000 restaurants in the U.S. But one journalist claims tipping has racist roots. In a since deleted tweet, reporter and creator of the New York Times 1619 Project said tipping is a legacy of slavery, and if it's not optional, then shouldn't a tip simply be included in the bill? She went on to ask why we tip in America and nowhere else. That, of course, touched off a debate with historians and others. And we're joined now for a little more on the discussion. That's our popcorn panel, and it looks like Rick has come, unless those are French fries, I'm not sure. But let's bring in Democratic political strategist Kristal Knight.
I'm ready.
And Patriot Academy founder Rick Green. So, Kristal, let's give you the first crack at this. Help me understand. Is she saying that tipping is racist, or are we overthinking this?
I think what she's saying is that it's rooted in a racist history and past. She's also not the first reporter to ever speak about tipping and how, restaurant employees are paid under minimum wage. What we know right now is that minimum wage is $7.25 in this country, and the average tips or the average salary for a restaurant worker is $2.13. And so those numbers don't add up. I think that there is some truth in understanding why America relies so heavily on this sub-minimum labor force, and we are, forced to tip people so that they can make their ends meet, when in other countries, people simply don't have to live that way. And it's a choice that we're continuing to make with these particular set of employees in this country.
Rick, my question on this was, what's the difference between leaving a tip separately or including it in the bill? It's still a tip.
Yeah, I mean, at first this is just hilariously silly, right? I mean, anything that a potential racist in the past did is now racist. This is the way cultural Marxists see the world through critical race theory. Everything is seen through race. So if the racist Democrats in American history rode a horse, now riding a horse is racist. If they drank water, drinking water, that is ridiculous, of course. But it's not just silly, it's dangerous. This continues to divide us, and that's the goal of Marxism, to divide us. It makes us not look at each other as brother and sister and fellow American and just a fellow human being, or as my friend Alveda King likes to say, that we're all one race. It continues to say that somehow your color of your skin is what decides what you can or cannot do. So I wouldn't even call her a journalist. She is known through the 1619 Project for not being very accurate about her history and trying to divide our American people through the idea of racism. I think we need to come back to the idea of, hey, we're all in this thing together. Hey, tip if you want to tip. If someone serves you well, they deserve an extra tip in addition to that wage. And that's really why I like tipping, because it allows you to benefit a person that does a good job at their job, and not so much if they're lousy. That's called free market. We used to believe in that in America as well.
All right, we got a couple more issues for you guys we want to get to. Let's move on to the fight underway now in a number of states over banning trans athletes from women's sports. There are 11 Republican governors that have signed these bans in their states, and now 2 Republican governors have vetoed those bans in Indiana and in Utah as well. A lot of people struggling with reconciling this, including Utah's governor, who said rarely has so much fear and anger been directed at so few. Kristal, you go first on this. Why are we going through all of this?
Yeah, this is actually a really tough topic, Joe, and I will be honest to say I don't have the perfect answer. What I do think, though, is that governors should do is respect transgender rights and LGBTQ rights and people who identify with how they choose to identify and how they choose to show up in the world. As it relates to the NCAA issue, whatever the NCAA has deemed appropriate, I believe that the governors in those respective states should follow those rules. But ultimately, this is really, it also, comes into play what parents decide to allow their children to participate in or not participate in. And so I want to just make sure that we're also bringing into this conversation that parents also have a choice with whether their children get to participate or not participate, but between a child that is identifying as transgender.
Rick, it seems like the NCAA hasn't given folks a lot of options on this, so states are kind of taking their own lead on it.
Yeah, I would say the parents have been removed from the equation in most of these scenarios. It was weird last week, Joe. I was agreeing with Kristal on so many things because she was actually advocating for Trump energy policies. She might see it different, but what she said was exactly that. Listen, here's what, in terms of this is not complicated. This is not difficult. I disagree with Kristal tonight. It's not difficult at all. Women should compete in women's sports, men in men's sport. This is wrong. This is so wrong that men are going over into women's sports and taking these championships away. Hats off to Ron DeSantis for actually recognizing recognizing the real NCAA swimming champ, which was an actual girl, not this guy, Leah Thomas, who's acting like a girl in these sports. This is absolutely wrong. It's a no-brainer. This should not be difficult, and shame on these Republican governors for not protecting women.
Go ahead, Kristal.
Rick, how do you reason with a person who is identifying as a trans woman?
You don't let them participate in women's sports. There's all kinds of ways to show compassion, but you don't show compassion or love by allowing a man to go over and compete with women. That's simple logic.
Yeah,
right, but the NCAA has allowed them to participate. So how do you go back and reverse that?
Yeah, they have indeed, which is why states are doing this. Listen, we want to get you on one more thing, guys, before we go. The latest Biden-Harris beef. Dr. Jill Biden, in a new book, questioned her husband's selection of Harris as a running mate. Of all the people in the country, basically, she said, you picked the one person who attacked you. And that, of course, came from an early debate. Kristal, in hindsight, Harris's numbers are even lower than President Biden's. Was it a mistake picking her for the ticket?
Absolutely not. I don't think that remark or that comment, and it may not be taken in jest. We don't really know the context in which, or it's alleged that the first lady actually made those statements. What we have to remember is during presidential elections, during any elections, your opponents often attack you. Joe Biden attacked many of his opponents as well. And so does that mean if he was not the successful nominee that someone should not have picked him? We have to remember he attacked President Obama when they were going off in the primary. And so I think that there are a number of challenges and news that's coming out of the vice president's office, but picking her to be his vice presidential candidate or nominee and now serving, I don't think that was a mistake. He still has full confidence in her. And the White House has stated this as well, despite the rumors and the things that are coming out in this book.
Rick, the D's have their own issues on this, but I want you to give us your list maybe of the top 3 or 4 you see running on the R side.
Well, real quick on that one, I would say worst VP pick in the history of mankind. They could have had Tulsi Gabbard, who actually has a brain and is smart and can articulate it, and would have been a fantastic president to replace Joe Biden.
That's why I didn't ask you about it, Rick, because I figured that's what you were going to say. Give us your 3 names.
Didn't even win any votes. As far as the R's, it's pretty easy. Ron DeSantis leads the pack by far. Best governor in America. Kristi Noem would be fantastic. I think Kristi Noem would be the best pick if Trump ends up running for president again and gets the nomination. But if Ron DeSantis is the nominee, well, actually, same thing. I'd love to see DeSantis Noem. That'd be a phenomenal ticket. All
right, we'll see. Kristal Knight, Rick Green, it's great to have you both, as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Enjoyed it.